There we go. All right, let's see. Make sure everything's on, working. Yeah, looks like it. There we go. The name Avatar reset on the last stream. I don't know. It's not the same. He bops back and forth now. I tweak those settings. Hi, friends. Hi, Pawninator. Hi, Hamburg. I gotta get the crash card out too. OBS. There we go. All right, now we're back. And this stupid thing. The camera hub. Okay, so I've been looking at all the stuff since the computer reset, or all the settings and everything reset on stream and everything else, and figured out the reason why the camera hub wasn't working was because Windows, something to do with Windows update. So I re-downloaded the Logitech camera software so that I can control it and use the Droid Cam and everything else. But to get rid of the watermark, you have to log into your account. Well, the site's no longer up, so I can't go in and do anything with it. So it's going to have the Logitech watermark on the bottom corner. I don't care enough. Okay, what's going on with this? What's with this? Okay, that doesn't need to be open though. There we go. Yeah, that should be working. How is everybody doing on this wonderful Monday? I know it's out of the ordinary, but make sure everything is working. No, still not working. Huh. Kira, come on now. Huh? Go with the old failsafe. Unplug it and plug it back in. Unplug, damn it. Adjust the monitor. And the Infragable is rating with a party of 3. Whoop whoop. Oh, them lab rats. There we go. Let's see, is the shout out button working? It is. There we go. Everything's working. Let's give them a second to get in here. Let everything load up. Wait for that raid message to come on in. First raid of the evening. All right, that should be good. Welcome on in, raiders. Welcome on in, Fraggable. Woohoo! I figured out how to raid and whatnot. Yeah, it's a good feeling. Welcome on in. Let's give you a little shout out. Oh wait, now I gotta wait on it to finish. It's got to update, so I can just do this. So. Great, googity moogity. Okay. I don't know. Everything runs really slow right now. Exclamation point. What? Oh, the Infragable. My bad. Let's see if that works. Just had a short stream, short Peterman stream. Damn, and the fucking shout outs aren't working too. Good God, man. And it's just one thing after another. You're going over here. There we go. Block that on in. Pro streaming strats, bro. Well, good. I hope you had a good stream. I was busy cooking dinner. Colored gemstones lit up the wall. They formed a rainbow trail up to a giant waterfall. There the necromancer grinned. Princess stood frozen. It's still so hot beside him. Damn. Guys, make sure you give the Infragable a follow. He is new to streaming. He is trying to get up to affiliate status as soon as possible. So if you don't follow already, please give him a follow. Let's see, we got to go back in. Computer's already grinding along as it is, but all right, let's see. Pixel chat, there it is. Okay, it should be good now. There we go. See, I've got the option to turn on captions, but I don't know, exactly how to do it. I'll have to figure that out at some point in time. All right. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see if we can get it working again. See if it'll do it this time. Son of a bitch, it's still not working. Okay, it is what it is. We tried, and that's the best we can do. Oh, I'm going to get out the crash cart. I have to put this over. Sweet. Oh, yeah, let me see that. All right, crash carts. Woohoo. All right, so, seriously? Come on now. Goodness. Glove first. No glove, no love. Damn, that's bright. Oh, cool. I can, in theory, do shout-outs. I'll have to write this down so I can try it next time. Yeah, it's exclamation point SO, and then at, and then whatever the user's name is, and you can do it that way. But yeah, welcome on in. And for those of you who don't know, I'm Dr. Froggenstein. I'm a miniature painter. Yeah. Working on... Nope. That's right. One more time. There we go. Now it should zoom in. There it is. Baller. I've been working on another one of my commissions. Painting a Battletech tank for a buddy of mine. It's done for the most part. He apparently did not want military camouflage. He wanted urban camouflage. So, who on me, I guess. Yes. Do you like tonks? What about this tonk? So many tonks. I've got just like 2 boxes full of these to paint for him. So, but I haven't primed any of them yet. I only managed to get one primed. The weather was good enough. And I don't like using my airbrush to prime. Goodness gracious. There. Give that a second to finish. Infraggable, thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. You get to use all the emotes and everything else. We've got crazy channel point redeems. We've got song requests through Spotify. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. I know you're doing a no problem, easy decision. Appreciate it. And we also got sub badges, custom emotes.
Shut the f up, Steve.
Yeah, I know who that is. What was I saying? Yeah, I know you're gonna be doing a. I know you're doing a Christmas movie marathon. Infraggable is doing just in his own time. It's movies that take place on or around Christmas that are not Christmas related. So, like, Die Hard is a Christmas movie because it takes place at Christmas, but has none of the sentiment that a Christmas movie actually would have. Gremlins would be another one of those. Although Gremlins, I would argue, is more of a Christmas movie than Die Hard because the entire premise of the movie is, or the primary conflict is, the dad went out to get a gift for his son and bought Gizmo, and that's where everything comes from. I mean, he gives it to him as a Christmas gift on Christmas Day, so that one I would argue more so than Die Hard. There's no gift giving or any of that kind of stuff. Die Hard. Die Hard 2. Die Hard, the crappy one, actually is about John McClane going back for Christmas, visit his family. So do we mech or do we Necromunda? That's the question. That is the question. Do we work on the Riot Sister model or do we work on another mech that's already been started?
I think you know the answer.
I don't, actually. That's why I asked the question. I'm torn. Yep, today's not Christmas movie was Mean Girls. Yeah, that's right. Never seen it before and was like, so why not? Yeah, and it is. I mean, it is a really good movie. By the way, if you don't know Waste Control, my mod is currently here in my house with me, so you'll hear him talking.
Oh, hi everybody.
That's right. Oh, hi friends. All the dust off this thing.
Mean Girls is more of a Christmas movie than Die Hard.
Yeah.
Well,
I've never watched it either.
Okay, because of the whole dancing scene that they do.
Oh yeah, they do.
They do a dancing scene.
That's right. They got that whole Christmas theme.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course you got all the lots of woots going around. And so many good Christmas horror movies. And I say good in the loosest sense of the word good because they're all pretty terrible. There are very few Christmas horror movies that I've ever seen that have been like, man, that was a good Christmas horror movie. But at the same time, I mean, the friggin' one where Bill Goldberg from the WWE is fucking Santa Claus just murdering people just relentlessly. He kills an entire strip club full of people. Patrons, strippers, and all. It's ridiculous. He kills Fran Drescher by setting her on fire.
That's the only way to kill her, though.
Yeah,
She's like a troll.
Yeah. That's the only true way. Otherwise, she regenerates and comes back. He says, Mr. Sheffield.
I'm on fire.
But yeah. Yeah, now, probably a lot of people, I wouldn't consider this a horror movie, but it does have some horror elements to it. The Green Knight came out 2022. Takes place at Christmas, and it is about Christmas. It's a very bleak version of the Knights of the Round Table. King Arthur looks like he is one hard sneeze away from dying. Merlin looks more like what you would imagine a druid would look like the tattoos on his face and stuff like that. But it does, the entire event kicks off because they're playing a game at Christmas with the Green Knight. I highly recommend that one. That's Avi Arad? I think it's Avi Arad.
I don't know. Let me look.
Yeah. That movie was great, yes. That's because Fran Drescher is made of asbestos. Fair enough. No, that would make her flame resistant. I don't know what the big deal is with asbestos. It can't be that bad for you. It's got the word best in it.
Dev Patel.
Dev Patel. Okay, Dev Patel did A Green Knight. No, the director.
Oh, David Lowery.
David Lowery. Okay. Yeah, Dev Patel was Sir Gawain or Garwin. They pronounce it weird in that entire movie.
It's a Gawain.
Yeah.
And Drescher was on the script writing.
That's right.
That one.
Where you going?
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the worst. Yeah, but yeah, Hamburg. I watched it last year as part of my Christmas movie marathon. And yes, I absolutely love that movie. The scene, there's almost a cabin in the woods type scene in it because he stops at like a shack in the woods to sleep and there's a ghost in there. So, I mean, there's very much a cabin in the woods scene in there. Let's see. Oh, hi, creature. Oh, you came with the Infragable. Oh, God, I spiked the microphone there. My bad. I need to turn that sensitivity down just a tad bit. There we go. Chad. That's the guy I was trying to think of earlier when I was telling... No, you weren't here for that. How be me? I be good. How is creature? I was explaining to my wife earlier that there is a surfer that lives in my head, and his name is Trevor. And he speaks perfectly fluent Spanish. The problem is, and I don't know if this is considered perfectly fluent, he doesn't try and pronounce things with the accent. Creature's doing well. Happy Christmas Eve Eve. Yes, indeed. Yeah, so Trevor doesn't put any accent or anything on it. He still talks like a surfer boy. But it helps me. It's a way that helps me remember things when I forget words in Spanish, or when I'm having a hard time remembering what they are. I say it as Trevor, and it makes it easier for me to remember because it sounds so preposterous. So it's, hola amigos, como estas?
Oh,
Me
God.
llamo es Trevor.
I've heard you do this.
Yes.
before.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's bad. But it helps me to remember. How did he get the name Trevor? God, why do I keep spiking the microphone? Maybe it's because, well, and I also was moving it around. That doesn't help. How did he get the name Trevor? It was just, I picked a name. I was doing it in my head and just having a good laugh, thinking about what if there was a guy that spoke Spanish perfectly, completely knew it, but didn't bother. And I was like, what if he was a surfer? And it was like, just started going through, and it was, hola, mis amigos, como estas? Me llamo es Trevor or some shit. And I was like, yep, it's going to be Trevor. And it was, So far, my Not a Christmas movies have been Iron Man 3, Batman Returns, Hook, Die Hard, Jumanji, Toy Story 1, Edward Scissorhands, Rocky 4, Gremlins, and Mean Girls. Yeah, because Iron Man 3. Yeah, it takes place leading up to Christmas, because there is the Christmas tree when they fight I almost said the Mandalorian.
Yeah, that's who it is.
When Iron Man fights the Mandalorian.
Oh man, this crossover's great.
Yeah, that would be baller as fuck, dude. Die Hard is Christmas adjacent because there's none of the things that make a Christmas movie in there. They're at a company Christmas party, but it's not on Christmas Day, and they don't give gifts or any of that kind of stuff.
Well, John McClane does give us all the gift of killing Hans.
That's very true. It's like, Hans, your spare parts, bud.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's also a crossover that we need.
Yeah, the Die Hard if it was Shorzy. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they're all Christmas adjacent movies. Wait, Hook is...
Yeah, because at the beginning of Hook, they're celebrating Christmas.
They're going to visit Wendy and all them for Christmas.
Correct.
That's right. Yeah, that's Waste Control. Sorry. God damn it.
Hi, creature.
Yeah. I gotta pull the microphone back or something because I just keep talking way too loud. I'm a little too close.
Again, you're just excited that I'm here.
Absolutely.
Co-streaming with you.
That's right.
And by co-streaming, I mean giving you hard time in real time.
Yeah. But yep, that's Waste Control. That's my best friend. He's in town, and it was like, hey, let's stream, and you can be here, and we can goob it up. I will be going over to Discord for the share stream. Probably in about 10 minutes. How are you?
I'm good, creature, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Yes,
yeah.
I've been told I have a voice for radio and a face for one too.
That's right. Always tease Frog and Son. Yes, absolutely.
It is my favorite pastime.
Yeah. But it's not like the movie teasing, like in something like American Pie, where it's just relentless, like all the time teasing. It's the it's different. It's less mean spirited.
Sure about that?
Yeah. Those are some dulcet tones. Yeah, you got a pair. How can you have a face for radio? No one ever sees the radio host face.
That's the joke, creature.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Face for radio because nobody needs to see it.
There you go.
Oh, my feelings.
No, not all of your feelings, just the one.
Just the one.
Just multiple times.
That's fair.
Oh, that's not true.
Yeah. No, it's just a joke, creature. That's all.
Yeah.
I like to insult myself as much as I do everybody else.
Yeah. The reason for the season. What about WKRP? They had a face for radio and
Okay.
TV.
It's so funny that you bring that up because I was actually talking with my folks today about WKRP because they have Night Court on Amazon Prime, and I was really excited, and then I hoped they had WKRP, and they don't. And also, 100% the people in WKRP have faces for radio. It just happened to be recorded and put out as a TV show. So,
Yeah.
I mean, other than I guess Phil, well,
Well, I would
Phil
say
Hartman.
Phil Hartman was sort of handsome. He was handsome in the same way that Bryan Cranston is handsome. In
That's
like an
fair.
unconventional
That's
way.
fair. But yes, that still applies to WKRP.
Is this what it's just going to be? We're just going to be talking about old movies and TV shows?
I told you that's what we should talk about
yeah, I'm
tonight anyway.
So fucking down for that, honestly. I can paint. We can goob it up and talk about.
I just love that that's the second time today WKRP has come up in casual context.
It happens in threes. You're going to get pulled over on the way home, and the cops are going to be like, you look like that guy from WKRP, and be like, I'm going to let you go.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm cool with that.
The day WKRP in Cincinnati saved the day.
I refuse to give Apple any more of my money, Hamburg. I am not going to get Apple TV just for that.
No, hell no. Apple TV is another one of the many tools of the devil. And don't you put that on him. That wasn't his fault.
The devil?
Yeah, don't you put Apple TV on the devil. That's not on his. He didn't make it. Okay, I mean, I was making sure I was using the right.
I mean, Steve Jobs was devil adjacent. So
yeah. A minor demon.
they lived in the same like suburb community. Oh yeah, you owe Poninator a hydrate anyway from earlier.
Oh, I did not see that.
Yeah. Because you don't think, I just do.
That's right. I act solely on emotion.
Well,
yeah. I'm Raphael out of the Ninja Turtles.
Well.
It's true. Every one of the Ninja Turtles describes your personality. I think we talked about this on.
I'm sure we have.
Stream at least once before, or it might have been somebody else's stream. No, in fact, it was this one because Ickelhoof was saying, "Well, then who am I?" And I was like, "You're Michelangelo." Clearly.
That tracks.
Yeah. And not to
vibrate.
Shake the fucking microphone or the camera too much. And unfortunately, it's a combination of shaking the desk because I'm leaning on it, and then the camera is attached to the desk, so then it ends up shaking the camera as well. So then the whole thing ends up. You'd be Toka from Ninja Turtles 2: Secret of the Ooze. Get out.
Oh man, what a deep pull.
Yeah. Get out.
Now, please leave the vicinity.
Yeah. You can see yourself out.
I mean, A for the reference, but F for the movie.
Yeah. -6 points from Gryffindor.
Yeah?
Yeah, mine is an obligatory number from your house of your choosing. gonna be all over the place. Point system was just fucking random. Ah, shit, I'm way
All
off camera.
point systems are random.
With-
That's kind of the idea.
Was Kevin Nash actually Super Shredder? I didn't know that.
In Secret of the Ooze? All right. I'm going to Google this because as much as I want to believe it.
Yeah. There we go. I'll move this down a little bit further. There we go. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Sort of would, but... Speaking of Hogwarts houses, what house are you, Frog? Have a guess, but I want to hear it from you. Oh! Okay, real quick, I'm Slytherin, by the way. According to the personality test. Holy crap, second raid of the night. Dead Nerve. Wow! Welcome on in, Raiders.
Holy crap. Kevin Nash was Super Shredder.
Jesus Christ.
Look at
Merlin Models. Good
that.
lord.
Look at that wall of meat in his
Oh, dude,
photo.
he's an absolute fucking
look at
slab.
Look at this unit.
Yeah. Merlin Models as well. Rubik's Cube. Jeez. Got everybody in here. I called it. You give off those vibes? Yeah, I do. But without TMNT2, we would never have had one of the greatest songs of the 90s, the Ninja Rap. All right.
Okay, please get yourself
You've
out.
overstepped your bounds, sir. Oh, Bonko Buttkiss, thank you for the follow. Welcome on in, buddy. Walter's Workshop, what is going on? What were you working on tonight, my friend? I'm doing kind of an out of the ordinary Monday night stream. I don't normally stream on Mondays. So.
Or have a guest.
Or have a guest. I have a guest. We have Waste Control. My best friend and moderator is here tonight. Oh!
Now you listen to me, you crazy old cracker.
Oh no, the overlap.
Oh God! It's everywhere. Oh God! It's a follow, a redeem, everything all at the same time. Big Boss Waz Trek, what's going on, dude? Nice string strand, sculpting and lurking. It's just chaos at this point in time. Good lord.
What's funny is I'm not even part of it this time.
Yeah, no kidding. Everything is just on the hell. Woo. I was somewhat working on Big Conquest Dino and checking out the concept art cards they came out with. Is that the new one, the like big Pteranodon model for Conquest? The button. Now I'm gonna have to scroll through all these.
I'm not gonna lie. Big Conquest Dino sounds like a great indie band name.
Yeah, very true. What's going on, Newport? We are Big Conquest Dino. My name's Trevor.
Oh no, it's all coming full circle.
Yeah. My name's Trevor, and this is my buddy Chad Bit. Let's throw this out there. Hey, now the shout outs are working. Sort of working. Okay.
Listen.
What the fuck just disconnected? Something just disconnected. Oh, I know what it is. This fucking thing right here.
Unplug it or plug it?
Unplug it.
Ah, stupid.
The big old quaddle, the pterodactyl. Yes. That's the one. Okay, for those of you who don't, I don't know why you wouldn't. And if you're here from the raid, you probably already do, but make sure you give Walter's Workshop a follow. Old miniature painter. One of the reasons why I got into streaming in the first place. I started watching a couple other people and then started watching Walter's Workshop, and between him and Captain Madlove, they were encouraging me to stream. And so I did. Creature just flattened.
Flatlined.
Plug creature back in. Okay, I was like, wait, what? All right, there we go. There we go. Now you turn the music back on. Well, thank you for the raid. Thank you for the follows. If you got a raid and run, I get it. I know you're busy. You're a busy platty daddy.
That was a nickname in college.
Yeah. Yeah, we are working on kind of just dicking around, chatting and working on one of these BattleTech commissions. I have so many mechs left to paint. It's going to be May before I'm done with all of these. There's about another 13 or 14 mechs, plus an entire box full of helicopters and tanks and everything else. Oh, Voxel Forge. I do love the awesome mech I've ever sculpted. Oh, really? Did you sculpt the ones for the BattleTech game, Voxel Forge? Because you do your, I know you, I've seen your models before. I know I follow you on Instagram. Or did you sculpt your own? Okay. That's, I was gonna say, I thought that's what it was, but I wasn't sure if you were an official sculptor for them or not. Yeah, I'm not like into BattleTech. But just a guy that I consider to be my little brother requested that I start painting his mechs up for him, and he would pay me for it. So, why not? I don't charge him a whole lot. I don't mind, and he also doesn't pressure me to get them done within a certain amount of time. And this will be his third army for him that I've painted. I've painted more armies for him than I have for myself in like the 20 years of painting that I've been doing. Yeah, everybody who's hopped in from the raid. I am Dr. Frogenstein. I don't know if I said that already. Pretty sure I did. At least once. I know I've said it at least once. The real bad habit of jumping from like spot to spot on the miniature. I really need to just like start at the head and work your way to the feet type. Something like that.
Both in painting and life.
Yeah, exactly. Start at the head, work to the feet. Fly directly to the forehead.
What the fuck?
Oh. Yeah, for those of you who haven't been here before, we've got Channel Point Redeems, we've got song requests through Spotify as a Channel Point Redeem, and all kinds of wacky stuff. And yeah, just kind of chill vibes. I've got my own Discord, !Discord, if you want to join. It's free, don't cost you nothing.
Technically, they're not dragons, they're wyverns. Get fucked! No one cares. Absolutely get fucked. Fuck off with your dragon lore.
That's right.
Get fucked. Anyway. No, I actually do like knowing those little things.
Why don't you lich my balls?
It's the only reason I play that sound.
Yeah. Why don't you lich my balls? It's an undead wizard. See, I know things. Look at that ! Discord.
I guess I am on the clock. Huh?
Infraggable. I don't know if you've ever said, but where did the Dr. Frogenstein name come from? Okay. Not a... There we go. Thank you. Not a super complicated story. So when I was playing World of Warcraft, my main character's name was Frog, F-R-A-W-G, based on an energy drink that they sold at 7-Eleven. Saw a commercial one day while we were playing. I was making my character, and it was like, well, I know what my name is going to be. And then I got an Xbox and got a live account and everything else, and actually Waste Control and I were hanging out for the first time. Not the very first time, but like in the
very early on in our relationship.
Yes. Early in our relationship, we were hanging out. We were going to start playing Halo Online together. And I was like, I need a better username. And I was like, but I want it to be some like Frog or something like that. Well, Frog was already taken. And I was like, so some kind of an adaptation of Frog. And he was like, what about Frogenstein? And it was like, yeah, there we go. So it is 50% Waste Control and 50% Frog is basically where the name came from. Deep cut WoW lore. Yeah. But yeah, I played WoW for a long time. So that's kind of how I was getting used to being called Frog all the time. So it was like, well, I'll just stick with that. But yeah. We should probably hop on over to the Discord and yeah, it's 9 o'clock. It's been long enough. Yeah, I think I'll set the limitation for myself if I can't work on another Necromunda model until I finish at least one BattleTech miniature. Because I've got to get these done. I got to get these out of my fucking house. There's so many of them. There are so many boxes. Just
You do have an obscene amount of them just laying around.
yeah, I mean just elementals, helicopters, tanks. This is about a third of just the helicopters, tanks, and elementals that my little brother brought over. And then there's a whole nother box of mechs in there, including one that is absolutely staggeringly huge. Yes. Very much like how Grim got grounded from spending money on miniatures. He got grounded by Mungo's Marvelous Miniatures. I am self-grounding myself. Oh, that's redundant.
Yeah, that's a good sentence.
Yeah, that sounded real great coming out of the old mouth tube. But yeah, I grounded myself, so I'm gonna ground myself and
Hey, say it one more time so they really understand.
grounding myself. Attaboy. Yes. So that way I have to at least finish this guy before I can move on to the next Necromunda miniature, or else I'm never gonna get them done. Okay, there we go. Oh, wrong thing. Yep. Where's my Discord? Here's the Discord. Oh, that sounds like an MD. That's me. You're grounding yourself. Oh, yeah. Okay, I read that already. There we go. Let's also do this. Counts on MD and a hug attack. We just had somebody join. Who do we have join? Oh, the Infraggable. Welcome on into the Discord as well. Yeah, so on Sundays, normally we do it on Sundays. Today I'm streaming on Monday because I couldn't stream yesterday because I was wrapping Christmas gifts, which I almost finished everything. On Sundays, we go through my Discord. People post stuff in the share channel. And it can be anything. It can be miniature painting. It can be whatever you want. Pictures, anything. And we will share it and look at it on stream. And I'll tell you how awesome you are. And then we go back to the regular stream. I'm everywhere and nowhere. You're everywhere, everything, all at once. I took this picture at work the other day. It was super foggy going into work until the sun came up. Once the sun finally broke up the cloud cover, it wasn't so bad. But yeah, so when did I start working in Silent Hill? Because damn. What else? Oh yeah. Well, it's really cool because a lot of my work is surrounded by trees. They try to preserve a lot of the landscape. A lot of the property is still lots of thick trees. So, and I think this was the next day. Might have been the same day, but yeah, that's this is the road that I drive on when I move trailers. The fog picture, that fog picture looks like it should be a screensaver. I could see that as a background. I might set that as a background on my computer, actually. That wouldn't be bad. A good looking picture. So I was moving trailers using the Ottawa and popped out and was like, oh, that'd make a great picture. Oh yeah. My phone. What you did? I've done one time and all of a sudden now. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Excuse me. All right, what is this? Somebody shared a YouTube video. Okay, let me pause the music here. Yeah, don't forget we got music, Channel Point redeems. If you want to request a song, it'll be at the Twitch playlist. What is this? Make it full screen.
For all my D&D friends out there.
Oh, yeah, I
what's
remember
the
this.
damage?
That's pretty badass. Okay, I don't want to watch it again on YouTube. I just want to get out of the screen. Yeah, it's pretty kick-ass, dude. Speaking of fire, there was the other night. First night of the first. Oh, hold on. Can't go wrong with a D20 Mace of Fire. Yeah, exactly. And I built a fire in the fire pit in the backyard. And I was like, yeah, let's burn some of this shit up. Did you know the snowman was once super happy? He heard the snowblower was coming. He found out the snowblower didn't do what he thought it did. Icklehoof just subscribed for 25 months in a row.
Did you know the snowman was once super happy? He
is
heard
the
the
unicorn
snowblower
princess
was
here?
coming.
Yeah.
Then he found out the
yeah.
snowblower didn't do what he thought it did.
Thank you for the sub, Icklehoof. 25 months in a row. Good lord. 2 years and 1 month.
That's how math works.
Yeah, but I was just saying that's how long I've been streaming for. I've literally been streaming for 2 years and 1 month. Waka waka. Oh, little gif. There we go. There's Professor Grimm working on a way he was at the Peterman actor. Yes. Yeah, okay. I've said it before, and I've shared the link at least once or twice. But make sure you guys click on the Infraggable, click on his name, give him a follow. You know, follows don't cost you anything. Trying to get him up to affiliate. He has been streaming Spider-Man on the PlayStation 5. But the entire thing is, instead of Spider-Man, he has been calling it Peter-Man. He is a spider that was bitten by a radioactive Peter and is transformed into a superhero. It's quite funny. He's got an unquenchable thirst for civilian blood. It's pretty nonsensical, but it's an absolute blast over there. You find me, you'll find Icklehoof and Creature and MD. We're all hanging out over there. As long as he doesn't throw you. He does do a lot of Peter-Man does do a lot of throwing people off skyscrapers. He's not like that pussy Batman. He's actually willing to kill people. So, yeah, there's Professor Grimm with his most recent Warhammer Underworlds. I believe it's Underworlds. I can't remember. There's Underworlds and Warcry. One of them is like 3-4 models, and the other one is about 10. And I can't remember which one is which. Underworlds. That's what it is. Yep. Okay. Frickin' Pandy and her damn music choices. I swear to Christ.
Oh, she's not here. Can we dunk on her?
I mean, I guess. We could dunk on her if she was here.
That's fair. It's more fun if she is here to dunk on her.
Oh, and Creature took CV out to go see some Christmas lights. Oh. CV's a cutie. Ah, damn it.
We could skip it.
That's very true. I don't think anybody's feelings are going to be hurt by not listening to the Mambo number 5. Let's do that. I'm exercising my powers of veto. So, Creature, did CV enjoy himself? I know you said he fell asleep on your dashboard. He's a sleepy boy. Was it nice and warm in the car? That'd make sense if he fell asleep. How will I know the difference between Mambo number 5 and Mambo number 4? Yeah, it's very true. If Lou Bega doesn't educate you on the difference between the two, I don't know who will. He did enjoy it. He was fascinated by the colors, but with it being dark, it triggered the sleep instinct. Fair enough. Oh, what is going on, my friend? Speaking of the guy I'm painting all these mechs for, he's in here. He's in the chat. Oh, Yummy Elite Sauces. The one I'm painting all these models for. Mechs and tanks and mechs and tanks. That's right. It's like dogs and cats, but cooler. All right, let's finish this base off. The Nicolas Cage thriller base off. That would be the Bollywood version of Face Off.
Is that where they're just having like EDM fights?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
There's definitely a dance number. I haven't seen a film out of Bollywood that doesn't have a dance number. I know that's like a staple, but I mean, I don't know that it's possible. Like, I think it's in the contracts that they sign. Like, you have to have, yes, we'll fund your movie, but you have to put in a dance. It doesn't have to make sense. It can be completely out of place. Like the Bollywood knockoff version of Jaws called Atonk, which is how you say shark in Hindi.
Okay. Way better name
Yeah.
than Jaws.
Yeah, very true. Atonk is pretty that's pretty terrifying. Yeah, happy Christmas Eve, everybody. So, Yummy Elite Sauce, I'm working on the Awesome. That really is like somebody couldn't come up with a good mech name, and they're just like, I'm gonna call it Awesome. It is awesome. Okay, cool. Oh, this is a Scooby-Doo chase scene song. Yes, it is. You know, I don't. Oh, that's right, because I turned the auto white balance off, so I don't have to worry about wearing gloves when I paint, because it's not going to cause the screen to get all fucking weird. I did finish another piece of scenery the other day.
I'm gonna laugh when you clean your brush up on your thumb, not remembering you don't have gloves on.
Ah, dude, I do it all the.
Well, I know. It's just
I'm
gonna be,
saying.
it's just gonna be funnier now.
Yeah. As long as I'm not using oil paints, I'm not too worried about it. Throw some oil on there and just. Oh.
Oh no!
Somebody pooed on my hand. Gives creature a golden painted brick through the window for Christmas. Not even real gold. Not even gold plated. Just painted. Spray painted gold. Say. Honestly, a very apt name for it when you fire all its guns at the same time and just leave whatever it is you pointed at a molten crater. Fair enough. This one's got 1, 2, 3, 4, and looks like probably a little laser gun up there too. A golden brick through the window is like the golden ticket, only with murderous intent. Fair enough.
I've got golden head trauma.
That's right. He's got the golden trauma. I do like the synopsis. Somebody was talking about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or Willy Wonka. And they were talking about how, you know, a lot of recent complaints about the original, how like Grandpa Joe just sitting in bed all the time, and then as soon as Charlie wins the golden ticket, all of a sudden now he can get up. All of a sudden he's got, and it was like he was just suffering from crippling depression. It had nothing. He He didn't have any kind of ailment or anything else. He had no reason to continue on and couldn't afford to kill himself. And so he just succumbed to his depression and sat in a bed all day with 3 other fucking old people.
You know, like you're supposed to do.
Yeah. That's what you did back in whatever year that took place in, because...
God, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I don't know when, like...
I don't think they ever described, like, a time frame of
Yeah.
when Charlie and the Chocolate Factory took place. I think it was just, like, a ubiquitous, like, in the old times.
Yeah.
I don't know. That area always felt like Detroit for me.
You're not fucking wrong. Is
Why
it,
does everything suck and everything hurts?
is this Dickensian London or Detroit? Hey, that could be a game, actually.
You just show pictures of, like,
Yeah.
dilapidated buildings. You gotta figure out which one it is.
Yeah. Fuck you, Detroit.
I think you and I only appreciate that.
Yeah, that'd be it. That'd be a pretty fun game. It wasn't Detroit. It was the entire state of Ohio. Ooh. Oh. Drago Bancho. Another phenomenal streamer in here. Good God. So many of my friends in the stream. Yeah, exclamation point SO. At space at and. Yay!
Tell me why
Learn how to do
is
it.
nothing.
Yep. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Drago Bancho is another phenomenal streamer.
But egg.
Back and Forth by Legrand. Okay. I'm sure someone is here out of spite.
Why?
Friendship is a ship that doesn't sink easily. Copy that. There he goes. Add to the queue. Add to the... There it is. There we go. It's been added. Thank you, MD. I decided to go with a gray base for the speed paints instead of off-white or bone. Somehow, I could apply it with no problems. Well, good. I mean, I guess that's the way that you've got to go then. Must have some pretty good friends at the Infragable. Like,
Bro, don't even try.
yeah, I'm
No.
yeah,
No man, a man, a man.
that's right. Oh, no man, a man. Okay, I do know no man, a man. Oh, that was
Yeah, that was awkward.
I do know no man, a man. Let's go. Yes, okay, there we go. There's the coffee alert. For those of you who don't know, who maybe haven't been here before or whatever the case may be, I do have a Ko-Fi started. The link is there in the chat. Riot Sister started it for me to help me build a new computer so that I can improve the quality of my streams. Because with a new computer, I can then hook up my new camera and everything else. It will just be a great help. But like with everything else, you know, all the money from the subs goes to improving the stream. And any donations are the same way. They're going to go into PayPal that is specifically dedicated for building me a new computer. So yeah, any donations you can would be appreciated, but as always are not mandatory. We'll get it sorted out soon. I am ever grateful to Riot Sister for getting that started for me and kind of getting the motivating me to work on getting a new computer. One of those things that like I would talk about it but never actually have thought to do something like this. Yeah. So sometimes they manifest as voices that I speak. Sometimes they turn into Peter Man. They'll have intricate backstories or die in D&D campaigns I run. Fair enough. Oh, yeah, there's another one. There's another normal streamer there. Merlin Models. Big beardly man from across the pond. Merlin, are you getting back more on a regular streaming schedule? Because I know for a while there you weren't capable of streaming. You are indeed good. All right, guys. But make sure you give Merlin a follow. When he streams, it's early in the morning here. You follow some people from across the pond, and then you've got yourself you can watch a stream all the time, every day. Because every hour of the day, you'll know somebody who's streaming. Freaking song. I stream for my birthday, and I am streaming Wednesdays now. Okay. Yes, I think it was Mondays. Were you streaming on Mondays? No, a lot of the time when you're streaming, I'm at work, so it's hard for me to tune in. It was a little easier in 2020 when work was really slow, and 2021 wasn't much better. Crystal Dolphin. Essentially, I got back into it, and then the storm happened and it took me 3 days to get home. My sleep schedule was finally better. Good. I'm streaming Mondays, but work became too packed with. Yeah. I'm in one of those positions where I don't have to attend the frankly silly amount of meetings that happen in a workday. I would say my boss spends 50% of his day stuck in meetings, Skype meetings, Microsoft Teams. Channel point redeem from the last time you were here is just a ska break redeem. Okay. We can get clips from different ska songs. Make them audio files actually on the hard drive itself.
Yeah.
And then set it up to trigger a ska break. Just when exclamation point ska break, and it will randomly play just one of those songs like over the top of the stream.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes is the answer.
We're gonna work on that as a channel point redeem. It's just gonna be a random ska break at some point in time through.
Do I get to pick the songs?
Hell yeah, you can pick the songs. You can pick the sections of the songs and everything.
Oh my god.
We can't play the full song.
No, that's totally fine. I can already think of like 5 of them off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Just I know like 45.
I was gonna say
songs.
yeah. Okay, thank you, Abney. Meeting warfare, where 4 out of 5 of them could be emails. Yeah. Well, my boss, Jesus Christ, the amount of emails he gets, because it's one of those things, he knows how to do a lot of the stuff, like within the company itself. And so when somebody else is supposed to handle something, and then somebody will be like, oh, well, ask John. And then it devolves into, I've been talking to him and heard the email notification just back to back, just boop, 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 boop. It was like, Jesus, dude, how can you keep up with that? So I just delete most of them. That's a good way to do it. A lot of them are nonsense, though. A lot of them are just people like, oh, thanks for helping me fix my problem. You don't have to fucking email. He knows he did what he did. Yep. You don't even know my name, do you? Filters.
Free email filter.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude, my boss is not that tech savvy, and that's fine. He can answer 400 emails a day. He has to like. He goes to press. I'm like, all right. All you have to do is hit like, he's gonna do a take a screenshot of something, and like you hit print screen. He's got to like stop and look and find the print screen button, and then like presses it really hard and looks at the screen to make sure that it actually did what he told it to do. Or like, you just hit like Windows key, Shift, and S. And he's like, or he'll have to bring his other hand in to hit the S key. I'm like, God, dude.
Can we just talk about the adorable anarchy that MD just said? The frick the email.
Frick the email.
I just imagine like a very small child in a very large like anarchy T-shirt chanting along with a group that's rioting, and she's over there just frick the email.
Not a clue what she's talking about. Frick the email. Fight the power. Frick the email. Yeah, that too. We put that on a T-shirt. Frick the email.
Frick the email would be a very good
Yeah,
T-shirt.
dude, that's going up. MD. And MD's an artist, so MD could design that.
And by could do that, we mean you should do that.
Yeah, absolutely. MD, you want to design a Frick the email shirt for me?
It do need to be kawaii as hell.
Yeah. Art rocks. I mean, considering I'm trying to get his server-side IT, I said frick the email too. Yeah. Thank you, MD. I mean, MD essentially came up with she did come up with the original concept art for Todd. Like,
oh yeah,
from describing Todd, he came up with a picture and sent it to me, and he was super cute and crazy looking at the same time.
I would totally wear a frick the email shirt.
Yeah, man.
I would sit in meetings at my job with a frick the email shirt.
With that, I can go right next to the chainsaws, make for quick surgery.
It's true.
I need to order one of those for myself.
Chainsaw?
No, I've got a chainsaw. I need to order the emails make for quick surgery. Fucking A, now I'm getting all my slogans confused.
Hey,
Yeah. Frick the email. That's right. Oop. Katamari. And
oh, you know what I'm excited about?
What's
moving back is we can actually play Katamari in the same room.
Yeah.
God, that's gonna be so good.
You enjoy some Katamari. That's very true.
We can make that happen.
Last time that I tried to play Katamari while I was high, I ended up just sitting there staring at the ball for a long time. That was the night you got in the shower and just kind of stood there for a long time. Yeah, couldn't remember whether she had showered or whether she was getting in or getting out. Just kind of stood there for a while.
We've all been there.
MD, that's me. You started something. I'm so proud. Yes, that was the first time we did edibles. Was my wife got in the shower?
Because we took a whole.
Well, that was dumb.
Yeah, and my wife got in the shower and then forgot whether she had already showered or whether she was going to shower, and so she just kind of stood there for a while.
Yeah. I've got too many calories.
And I sat down to play Katamari and just kind of sat there for a long time, just staring at the screen. Well, AFK for a few, getting ungy. No worries. MD, that's me. You started something. I'm so proud. Hashtag Chaos Cruise. Yeah, you guys run in packs. Yes, darling.
It's a flock. Well, it's a murder if it's crows.
Let me see. Give me 1 second. I'll get up.
Oh. This is my stream now. Hello, everyone. I'm gonna paint. Yeah, this is a bad idea. I don't think I've painted a model in like 12 years. So these are also not my models. So here we go. Let's see what happens. Oh no, Frog is
Dragon says.
Frog is walking away. So this is my time to cause absolute chaos.
It's you just right.
Got me. Oh, I'll do that then.
I'm gonna go step outside and smoke a cigarette.
Okay.
Waste control takes over the screen.
I'm gonna paint. What is this?
Just a random bottle.
All right.
Random.
Yeah. Yummy goes, oh no, all the red paint. Listen, I was just gonna take it and dunk it directly in the paint and kind of swirl it around, and it's done. I don't really see how that's a problem. Is this primed already? Okay, cool. All right, well,
Dip tech.
I'm leaving you in Waste Control's ample hands for now. While
Ample.
Frog didn't get thrown in the basement. Frog put himself in the basement.
That's what Anna does.
What? Puts him in the basement?
Yeah, she took over stream one day and was playing Genshin. She was like, "I'm taking over stream because Froggenstein had a unfortunate accident downstairs." Everybody was like, "Oh God, is he okay?"
We got jokes up in this stream apparently. I don't know if you guys can see that. This mask is slightly upsetting. It's gonna probably white out. Let's see. Well, screw it. Let's just try it out and see what happens. Does this do anything? Oh, his paint mixer is very insinuating.
Yeah.
This thing is oof. Did Hitachi make that or?
Doc Johnson.
Oh no. This stream is about to get very unhinged. I apologize to no one. You know, while I'm here, if there are any no, sir. No. If any of you have any unhinged song requests you want to do, please go ahead and put them in now before he gets back, so I can just add them to the playlist. Hey, weirdly enough, I remember how to do this. Cartwheels. Yeah, paint, you ding dong. Oh, remember.
I thought you were adding me.
No, I'm not. No. Yeah, this is your chance to be completely unhinged, everybody. I'm talking to two specific people, and I think they both know who they are. Hurry before Dad gets back. Not Dad. He's just so angry. But I don't want unchanged music. Well, then you don't have to. You don't have to do that. Yes, I'm referring to the crows. Yes, absolutely. How do you send a it's hallelujah, but baby got back? Well, if you can give me the artist name, I can find that real quick. Let me put this model down and do this absolutely unhinged nightmare. There, I ruined it on YouTube. may not work because we're running it through Spotify. Oh wait, I do know who you're talking. Work Face by Eric Cartman. All right, here we go. I don't even know if that's gonna work either, but I'm giving it. Yeah, I'm gonna give it the old college try. Let's see. There's Poker Face. Did you mean? Oh, Poker Face. Got it. There's a lot of them. Terrifying. Go back. Why is Eric Cartman a verified user on Spotify? This is Dominic the Donkey? Okay. Getting there. Turned into a music stream, apparently. I think this one's it. What else we got? Cute Aggression by Anthony Vin. Okay. Oh no, I can't type. No, I can't delete either. There we go. I never learned how to read. Cute Aggression. Oh, yep, there it is. All right. I've completely I've given in to my chaos nature. What else? Anything else? I ruined it. Poker Face. Okay, well, he's back, so I'm going to leave before he puts me in the basement. Please continue on, all you chaos monkeys.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. All right.
You don't have to finish.
No.
Nah, bro. All right. Yeah, I know it's disappointing. I'm back. We are chaos crews. Get it right.
Listen, all that matters is it's chaos. And I don't
Yeah.
think the type of animal really matters in that case.
Not particularly. What have you done?
Listen,
My God, what have you?
oh God, we should add that. Stream.
What's that?
That song that your
Taylor
wife.
Swift.
Yeah.
Look what you made me do by
Ooh.
Taylor Swift.
Oh, they have a logo.
Arson. Actually, it does because we have a logo and everything.
Ford logo. The new
Yeah.
vehicle.
Yeah.
from
That's
Ford.
right. You're gonna die.
You're gonna die in this. It was a one-way trip.
Do you ever get kicked out of a PetSmart for trying to make love to one of the hamsters? That's what it's like driving a Ford F-150. The fuck? No.
All the no's.
You ever go to your family reunion and realize you've met the love of your life? That's what it's like driving a Ford F-150. You looking for? Oh, you getting a glass? Hey, friend. Can't stay long. Work in the morning, but I'll hang out for a bit. Hi, Helium. Hi, best friend. Singing Poker Face.
Listen, you walked away, so I took over.
Yeah. MD designed the Chaos Crows logo. Trim made it into a pin fabricy thing. Okay. Cool. Helium Waste Control's here, by the way.
Oh, hey, girl.
Yeah. Now we gotta do is play some Monster Hunter.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no.
3 hours of her screaming.
Talk about unhinged.
Not to mention Dad Pants face. You didn't blame me?
Getting his feels.
Daddy said.
Patch, I ordered several.
This mode initiate.
Hold on. I'm gonna find it and put it on share. Okay. Yeah, Discord's still open. Okay. Stupidly close it down like I do sometimes.
Listen, you were an honest spaz. We knew what we were getting into when you
Yeah.
joined up with us.
Yeah.
My brother, on the other hand,
Yeah.
I also added something called cute aggression. I don't know what it is, but
We're about to find out. That's fine.
Probably Hawaii as hell or something. Or maybe it's like the Doom Animal Crossing mashup.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Could be that. Good times. Yeah. I certainly enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to Monster Hunter Wilds when it comes out. Super pumped for that.
No, that doesn't come out until February. The end of February. 2 days after my birthday.
Did they push it?
No,
Or-
it's always been February.
Fair enough.
We'll let you know, Helium. Like, well, it's not on Switch. We're playing it on X. Well, you have an Xbox. Never mind. We'll let you know.
Yeah. I just got a PlayStation 5.
Wasn't she just the coolest kid in back of the bus?
Yeah.
Apparently, the Crow patch is.
Oh. Done and done. Okay. 1 second. Boop. Boop. Nice. Nice. All.
Oh, nice.
The song is awesome. Yes, it is. It's aggressively cute.
You should absolutely do that.
Then you pick up my wedding dress. My aunt brought it from Korea. Nice.
Probably also kawaii as well.
Yeah, that is pretty badass.
Put it in-
Yeah. Share it in the Discord if you want to.
All right, creature. Yeah, okay.
She's
In
so the
this
animal
particular
matters.
case, you are correct.
Yeah. Yeah, because if it was a chaos monkey, then it just looked like the monkey from the Legends of the Hidden Temple. Don't get me wrong.
I thought you were going to reference 12 monkeys.
This now. Oh, okay. "12 Monkeys." What an odd movie.
I still don't know what that's about.
I mean, it was about no matter what you do, the end of the world is coming.
Still don't know
Alright,
what that means.
How you try and fight it.
Shut up.
Yeah. I'm not following you.
I'm telling you, the dump method would make this so much faster.
Yeah. Sponging would work really well. Giving it a sponge bath would work.
That's just
SpongeBob.
that's because
Really
you
would.
really enjoy sponge
I
bath.
do. I do. I wanted to go to medical school just to be a sponge bath specialist, but that's not actually a thing.
That's assault.
I became a mad scientist. I'm not a mad scientist, I'm just a disappointed
Get out.
Oh. Oh.
Right, Dad Scientist.
Click on Discord.
No worries.
Bro, it's freeform today.
Yeah, we're just all over the place.
Oh shit.
That's beautiful. That's why our fur is always perfectly groomed and clean. Coffee by Jack Stauber. Okay. I got it. I've heard
Wait,
that before.
Crows don't have fur. Crows have feathers. See, now you're mixing your animals.
Yeah, now I'm a bit confused. Are you hairy crows?
Sir, please.
Yeah. The band that sang Mr. Jones? Hairy Crows? They were always on Saturday Night Live like all the time.
Hairy crows and me.
That's right.
Honestly, messaging.
Kill it and then myself.
Yeah. It's purple. It is purple. It's beautiful. Pandy's wedding dress. Her
It's two-tone.
her aunt sent it from
Is it
Korea. No,
It's
it's
not
ombre? I get it
Yeah.
now.
Andy, my wife let out an audible gasp at your dress. In a good way, by the way. Not like,
Oh shit!
yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it was a good oh. I'm so happy for you. Not quite a squee, but a gasp, yes. There we go. Yeah. She said, "Oh, thanks, lady." Oh,
No.
interface disappeared.
There it goes.
You're in her face.
I'll disappear in your face.
Oh my. What? Sorry.
No,
28. That sound right? Okay. I was taking a guess.
Throwing all this spaghetti at the wall.
Yeah, throw the spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks. Oh, my sweet pea. I remembered the remember when I was talking about there was a name that I couldn't remember earlier. I don't know if you remember, but it was Trevor,
oh,
the Spanish speaking server.
that was yes.
Yeah, but I had brought it up today and then I couldn't remember what it was, and it was Trevor and Chad Bit was the other one. Because I had said something about you said it's a tad bit cold, and I was like, oh, it's a Chad bit cold outside, and you're like, who? Yeah. Yeah. Nonsense.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here.
Who, Chad Bit?
Right, sister.
Oh no, that's the mushroom.
Oh,
The other mushroom.
oh.
Who the hell is Chad?
Who the hell is Chad? Chad.
That's the.
Oh, okay. I thought that's what you were making now.
Well, no.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's the other one for me.
Chad.
Everyone knows
Everybody
Chad.
knows Chad.
Yeah. Chad Bit. He's friends with Trevor.
It is kind of the way that I name everything Steve.
Yeah.
I do name everything Steve.
Twins.
Yeah.
Twinsies.
Everything. Everything is Steve. He's the Pookie of our lives.
That's right. Don't get me started with Trevor. Trevor's like the most laid back guy, though. He's just friends with everybody.
No, I think Trevor assumes he's friends with everybody.
No, in my head canon, for I'm like that gun face guy from that. Yeah, I'm that gun face guy from that Transformers movie.
I'd be.
Oh, like Chainsaw Man. Except for like the. Did you know that Chainsaw Man in Australia is actually called that chainsaw faced guy? Didn't know that.
I wish you would have kept that to yourself.
How old is Trevor? I don't know.
Trevor is a being out of time.
Yeah. He's just
Old enough to know better.
yeah, there we go. Good enough.
Thanks, Mom.
There we go. He's old enough to know better, but does it anyway. Trevor is the Spanish-speaking surfer dude who lives in my head, and yeah, I think old enough to know better is the perfect age.
He's 28, but comes from the 1800s.
That's right. Timeless. Being out of time. Are you threatening him?
Yes.
He wouldn't mind.
He'd probably be really chill about it.
Yeah, he would be.
Well, we fried MD.
Okay, I give up to understand. Yes.
He explained it. Trevor's the surfer in his head that speaks perfect Spanish, but says it in a monotone way,
Yeah.
so that it helps Frog remember Spanish words.
Yeah, he is my Spanish tutor. He's from California. What does Trevor look like? I don't know. What does every surfer in California look like? That's it. Hola, mis amigos, como estas? Me llamo es Trevor. Mis amigos se me llamas Blanco. That means white in Spanish.
I'm glad he lives in your head.
Yeah, I'm glad he's not a real person.
Yeah.
Too. I'd probably drown him.
That's an insult, Helium. Keanu Reeves is way cooler than Trevor.
Yeah. Keanu Reeves is breathtaking. And he thinks you're breathtaking. You seen the...
Trevor says El Bogus unironically.
Fuck, that's good. I like that. That's gonna be... I like that, to pin that at the top, and I fucking can't. I'm laughing too hard. Oh, God. And dirty blonde hair and blue eyes. Yeah, pretty much.
Oh.
That's yeah, that's pinned at the top. That's staying up there for the whole rest of the stream, too.
Oh. God.
That was good, Infraggable. I'm laughing too hard. I can't paint. All right.
Well, you couldn't begin with, so now you just have an excuse.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
get
Get flipped, nerd.
It's co-
you
First-
met me?
It was the first one he could find.
I think Helium is having flashbacks to Monster Hunter.
Oh my God, you got good. Oh man.
Oh.
Oh wait. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that stays up until the end of the stream. Oh. A shoo follows. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that.
I read that last chat from Helium wrong. Because I just glanced at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Monster Hunter was fun. Maybe I'll get Creamy Boy to play. I could see how you could misread that.
Okay, good. I'm
Yeah.
glad it's not just me.
Let's see if you can talk him into it. Oh, hell.
I'm sorry that you've gotten, like, basically no work done on Awesome
Nah.
Gaming.
Hey, it's all. He said he would be down. Hell yeah.
Oh no, we just gotta kick my brother out. Oh no.
Oh, dude.
Oh man. What is Oh yeah, we do too. Just not in video games.
Also, what's he hiding under that beard? Trust me.
Chin Tarantino's chin.
It's
I'm not-
real weird.
I know.
And that's weird.
It's a beard on the beard.
Yeah, that's right. Some people say, if you believe such legends, that he has a beard under his beard. Well, dude, the Trevor says El Bogus unironically like,
You're still dead, aren't you?
yeah, dude, I was, my eyes were starting to water. Fuck,
We know helium. We know.
yeah. Oh, fucking.
Don't apologize for good jokes.
No,
Don't do
dude,
that.
no, dude, that was perfect. That was fucking outstanding.
No, not yet. I won't be. Sorry, I won't be back until the end of January.
Last one.
Concock at that. No,
But
why are
I'm
you
gonna be
knowing?
putting on
Mm. Yes, I am.
Also very humble. By the way.
Humble, yeah. I'm humble as fuck. Well, I gotta say though, still making good progress on this. As unhinged as this stream has been, still making good progress on the awesome. Let's freaking go.
Nipple salads! Nipple salads! Nipple salads!
As I came down, I come down next time. Gonna have a group meetup. Yeah, that would be awesome. Getting closer and closer to 300 followers. Yep. Thank you, Streambot. Makes you think of a middle school dance. Yeah, fair enough. Yes. Go to. I don't know if she's been in there that long. They're gone. Always go before. With 5 feet of space, those are the days. Those were not the days, sir. I fucking hated middle school. Hello, love, never knew what I was missing. I knew once we. Oh. MD. There we go. I have to turn it down just a little bit. I don't like the phone. picking up the music, and it starts getting that weird reverberating thing. Ooh.
Emo.
You love this freaking song. I hear the song about once a day at work.
I'm trying to do things.
Is this a new song? This is one that MD picked a couple streams ago. Relatively new to the playlist. Alicia Keys? Who was it, MD? Oh, Keisha Cole. Probably 2 months ago. Keisha Cole, and it's I know it's relatively new because of the radio station that I heard it on. Like, it's not an old song.
Ever.
This Ow. Musical. Womp womp. Womp womp. Still, overall, though, pretty productive. A good portion of it done.
Sure, yeah. I'm telling you. Dip method. He won't mind.
You're a dip.
Oh.
Oh. Oh, Friday. That was another one of the movies that I showed my daughter.
Very good.
Yeah, I was sitting there and I was like, I want to watch something. I don't feel like playing a video game. It's like, oh, they've got Friday. It was Tubi. Tubi has an incredible selection of movies on there. If you don't mind watching ads, they got some really fucking good movies on there. I was scrolling through, but Friday was on there. I was like, dude, I haven't seen Friday in like 20 years. And so I started watching it, and way better than what you would have done. Tubi isn't bad at all. No, it's really not.
Hey, listen, free is free. I'm not going to complain about it.
Yeah, exactly. Tubi is goated. Thank you, Ashu. Oh, no worries. You can be excited for Tubi. That's fine. Tubi, yes, it's a video streaming service and it's free. You have to watch some ads. But yeah, I started watching Friday, and my daughter was sitting on the couch looking at her phone. And then after probably about 20 minutes or so, I look over and she's sitting there just watching the whole
Dude, I
time.
need a
She's
paper
like,
towel.
ooh, I like free. Vizio watch free isn't bad either. Honoring what you if it's honor. But yeah, I look over and my daughter is sitting there adamantly watching Friday with me. She's like, is this all this movie is just two guys sitting on a front porch and people keep walking up to them? I was like, yeah, pretty much. But it's good, though. It's a good movie. She thoroughly enjoyed it. She got a good laugh out of it. bucks to give. To run it dry. Careful.
Good way to take balls out there.
I pulled them up before I shut down.
Yeah.
I've been doing this long.
He's a professional and not giving himself a
Nut
Belvedere.
Tug.
Both, actually.
Nut Tug professional.
Balls a tug, you tit fucker. I have no desire to watch the Shoresy.
Yeah, I don't.
Have fun.
No, but it's not this.
Yeah. I think him in small doses is what makes it. He's not in every episode. What are they, black or silver? What are those for? You can go with the silver's fine. And get wrapped and tied around the back. Not directed at me. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Girl stuff.
Yeah. Girls being girls.
Cuties.
Girls being girls being girls being girls.
What was that board? The one with the mall. Mall
Yeah.
something. I beg to.
Chopping mall? Like that horror movie
that
about
horror
the
movie?
Yeah. About the security guard robots that go insane. Kill everybody. That girl gets her boobs out. Because it was the 80s.
It was the
Yeah.
80s.
Because it was the 80s.
Mall Madness.
Mall Madness.
That's what I was thinking about. Yeah, they're gonna play Mall Madness.
You can play that on stream.
Jesus, you can get the original one that's electronic for $90 on eBay.
Play it on stream.
Yeah, we can talk about boys and
Yeah.
do our hair and shit.
Oh, we have a pajama stream.
Oh my god, yes.
Stream like in pajamas in the bed playing Mall Madness. And what was the one with the phone? Like
Oh, that was like the
Dream
Dream
Date.
one.
Yes, that's
Dream was it?
Dream Date.
Was it Dream?
Pretty
Date?
sure.
Great.
Hi, Grey Knight. We're having a completely unhinged stream tonight. There wasn't much madness about false advertising. And then we're gonna have a pillow fight. Fantastic.
Dream phone.
Might have been. Yeah, that looks about right.
92.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Apparently buy it at Walmart.
Nice.
When you do phone board game, it bring up his dream phone.
Yeah.
God, did you? So here's the stream idea.
Okay.
So get both of those, dream phone,
And Mall
And Mall
Madness,
Madness.
right?
and we just do a top down,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay.
So it's, you got the table and everybody's seeing the board game, but we just wear footy pajamas and our feet are the only things in frame,
Yeah.
and we just have to kick them. But we gotta get really tall chairs.
Oh, Grey Knight, are you okay? When did that happen? Car crash into my semi.
Apparently, right now.
Oh, good. Just not sure about the other guy. Just now. Oh, shit. Oh, go handle that.
Damn it.
Yeah. You're okay. Please be safe. Yeah. Yeah. Go handle that. Damn, dude.
What?
Yeah, just Grey Knight has had, I mean, that's the second accident she's been in, at least while I, have been streaming, or since she's been coming in streams. And then she's had her trailer broken into at least once, if not twice.
Christ.
That's why she started taking the big ass dog with her, too. Damn, dude.
You should watch Hobo with a Shotgun.
Yeah, everybody should watch Hobo with a Shotgun. I mean, you don't have to. It's
No, you don't have to watch it. No, the idea, but the point is just to start carrying a shotgun with you
Yeah.
everywhere.
You don't even have to be a hobo to carry a shotgun.
That's true. You just be Grey Knight with a shotgun.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I'd watch that.
Grey Knight with a shotgun. It's one of those trauma style films, babe, where like the gore is just ridiculously over the top, stupid, and
It's like the 80s buckets of corn syrup.
yeah. There's a guy who kickboxes another guy, and he's wearing the kickboxer is wearing a pair of ice skating shoes. But he's like in the house. He's not even on like ice skating rink. He just puts them on so that he can cut people up with. I just knew I had to watch it because it was Hobo with a Shotgun. It's also why I watch nude nuns with big guns.
Okay, goddamn, the person that rammed into my semi came out.
Jeez. How are you doing?
Well, you can fix that, Grey Knight.
Yeah, you can cut them up.
Yeah.
Totally fixable.
Yeah. You can cut them up if you want to.
Cops aren't there yet.
Yeah. You pull that switchblade out. I'm gonna cut you so bad, you're gonna wish I didn't cut you so bad. Got a real pretty face there, boy. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. Give Grey Knight Dexter's education. This year needs to end, especially for Grey Knight, right? But sorry, and me and him are okay. We just gotta wait. Well, that's good. At least there's not there's not the like, oh my god, why did you stop at a legal red light and then let me hit you doing 80 bullshit?
I do like that Grey Knight is at the scene of an accident, reporting the accident to us live.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah.
This is the kind of news that we need.
Yeah, I need this year to end. It. Damn it.
Tell me where in the world is Grey Knight?
Sorry, Grey Knight. I mean, I got a guess as to where you are. Who do you hear in the background? That's Waste Control. Waste Control's in town. He's over here at the house. He's literally sitting like right next to me. If you guys, well, I'm guessing Montana Cream Boy says New York because all the bad drivers are about to head to bed. It's always up to Grey Knight whether we actually play that or not. That was just, oh god.
It run stuff on my.
Ah, got it. Okay. Well, I guess we're going to play now because people have started guessing, so I guess we have to play. Okay, so let's redo the intro here. Let me find my notebook. Wild. Weird night. Okay, do I have a pen over here? Or a pencil? I do not have a pencil over here. Stick that. We can do it. Okay. Okay, so yeah, for those of you who might be new to the stream,
It's a pen, but
we are about to play. Let's do the intro again one more time.
Yeah, dude, we should have gone to swamp.
Now tell me, where in the world is
That's right, Lab Rats is part of the stream where we play Where in the World is Grey Knight 40K, where we try and guess where in the continental US our truck driving Grey Knight 40K could be today. So we've got Helium coming in with Montana and Creamy Boy coming in with North Carolina. There we go. I was like, I know I said something. And we've got Creature with Ohio.
a lot of people are saying Ohio.
Yeah. Yeah, fuck Ohio. All right, a shoe. We can do it. Let's see. All those accidents were not my fault, except for that one. That was because of the ice. And technically, it wasn't your fault. It was the ice's fault. Okay. Nickelhoof is guessing Georgia. There we go.
I'm gonna guess hometown. I'm gonna guess
Please Control is guessing Kansas.
Kansas.
I'm going to guess Minnesota. Thank you, Frog. Ice was at fault. Exactly.
The ice was there first. It's not that. It's not its.
I came back. You're going to guess Arkansas because I have no idea what this is, but Rockefeller can go. Okay, so I'll explain it while we're going through here. MD, that's me, is also guessing Minnesota. My knee hurts. Ooh. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, in Fraggle, what it is Grey Knight started coming into stream months ago, probably damn near a year ago now. And she's a truck driver, and she would always be in someplace new every time she was my knees hurt. Your legs, there we go. But yes, Grey Knight was always in a different state every time I would stream, and she was here. And we found out she was a truck driver, and I had said, you know, I had made the joke of where in the world is Grey Knight 40K, and it was like, oh, we ought to make that into like a on-stream game. And so yeah, I made the little audio cut of Rockapella crossed with the Warhammer 40K video, and made the logo and did the map, each individual map section as its own little thing on stream. And yeah, it became a whole thing and people love it. So, all right, we will give it another minute and a half till this song's over. Yeah. Yeah, it's just one of those things, you know, it just kind of happened organically and it took off. And like I said, everybody really seemed to enjoy it. They seemed to have fun when it was going on, and a lot of work into doing all the crazy separating out all the states on the map and everything else. So she's out, by the way. Just like okay. Primo says hell or Iowa. Okay. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, MD, guess what? I mean, he's not quite wrong there. Hope I win so I can do the dance of joy. If not, I'll do the shuffle of shame. Fair enough. Yeah, every day she's shuffling.
I think that's it, baby girl.
We all live for this time of stream. All right, that is it. So let's get a drum roll, please. Grey Knight, tell us where in the world are you today?
Those are
I'm
archers,
in
by the way.
Kansas, and damn.
Oh, I called it. Everybody owes me 17,000 dinosaurs. Yeah, I want them. I want them all. Count every single
Like
one.
not Pokemon.
It is now.
Base Control coming in with Kansas. Oh, there we go. Throw some Dino Dance emotes in the chat for us.
That's not 17,000.
It's getting there. It's close.
And Twitch has a limiter, but
Yeah. And chat has a
Will you
limit.
put me on-
They're not.
we know.
You
Helium,
can't count.
We know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I gotta play the outro. Yeah, throw some more Dino Dances in there real quick.
It hurts.
Why?
Is that a pole dancing cat lady? What it looks like from here. There's just a big floofy thing when it spins around. Oh, fox. Got it. So okay, so I was
That makes
close. Yeah, all right.
It hurts brain. Does the shuffle of shame.
I do like the trademarks.
Copyright.
The
symbol.
copyright symbol
Yeah.
on the back.
Well done. Did I play the outro? I don't remember.
No,
Oh,
you didn't.
No, I
You
didn't
just
play the
said
outro.
you did.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I was letting all the emotes flow through. There we go. All right. Well,
Alright, so
that's right. Well, congratulations to Waste Control for correctly guessing.
Now tell me, where in the world is
Yeah, I won.
Yeah.
Hashtag
My-
rigged.
That's
Yep.
right. Man, to recount. My use plan is to creatures CVs. Is to Hank so that it looks like a castle, so that he is a dragon in the castle, like you said. Yes. You should be home tomorrow. Well, that's good. I hope you're home tomorrow. I can now go to sleep with the sound mind, knowing that Waste is such a winner. Yes, he is. He's always a winner in my book.
Listen, I'll take whatever W I can get right
That's
now. Okay.
right. I know. All the W's.
And I want to collect all the W's like Pokemon.
That's right. There's your W. Thank you.
Thank you for the W. I'm gonna have to say.
Oh yeah, dude. The video for this is totally going up on YouTube. It takes a long ass time to upload, but this is gonna be worth it. This so far it's this and the interview with Chris from Forbidden Soul. Those are like the only two
Sure.
that I've uploaded to YouTube.
Night, dear.
Good night, friend.
We have got to get him a new nickname.
Who's that?
Creamy Boy.
Yeah. Well, it's Freedom Cream is his username. I couldn't remember, so I called him Creamy Boy one time, and apparently that just stuck. So. I think I'm going to redo Tremo's tank. Maybe make it into an Abrams instead of an old World War II tank. I bet he would like that. Tell us, Tremo, would you be more comfortable in an Abrams or something from World War II? Oh, what about that fucking Russian movie? That's literally just tanks fighting each other. What? Oh, that movie's... Fuck, I can't think of the name of it.
All right, hang on.
Look it up.
Yep.
Russian tank movie.
T-34
That might be.
or White Tiger?
Tank movie T-34 came out in 2000. Yep, that's the one, T-34.
T-34.
Ooh, bruh. That shit's so good. It's literally just like an hour and a half of tanks blowing each other up. Some of the best fucking special effects.
This movie poster is definitely Russian.
Yeah.
Everyone looks the same level of emaciated.
I think I'm confused. Maybe annoyed. Easy, the two can get confused pretty easily. Yeah, Tremo, we're painting a red awesome for Yummy Elite Sauce. We're continuing some work on my little brother's mechs. Here's, I did this one, Tremo, earlier to test out doing camouflage on a bigger palette. And apparently it was supposed to be urban camouflage and not regular camouflage, but he said it was fine. It still looks good. All the that's a nice Shrek. That's right. I need my Panzer Shrek. Here, comrade, takes the Panzer Shrek. What does it do? You see that Panzer over there? Yes, get Shreked. And he creamed on a bee. No, never mind. That's not that. When Okovitz said tank, I thought they were referring to maybe a fish or something that she named after you. Oh, okay. It's everywhere. Everything is just crazy. Love it. Absolutely love this. Shrek nerd. Okay, I'm going to go for real now, so easily distracted for now.
That's fair.
Do it! Just do it!
Absolutely, Shia. I don't want to be murdered. Wouldn't mind watching Peanut Butter Falcon with Shia LaBeouf.
You know what you should do? You should
Wow.
put some cheeks on that.
There's some
On that.
slap some cheeks on this
Yeah,
mech.
yeah.
3D print some cheeks
Yeah.
and put it on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got the space for it.
Yeah, you got a dump truck.
Actual cannibals.
That's right. See, I think if they had added to Dead by Daylight, how they always add a killer and then they add a survivor to match the killer. If they had added Shia LaBeouf as the killer and Rob Cantor as the survivor, I would be playing that right now on stream. I would play that like once a week. Froggy has a very nice red paint on your thumb. I do. Keeping with the Christmas thing. Lurking in the shadows, lurking in the shadows. Maniacal unicorn, ickle hoof. Yeah, if they had put Shia LaBeouf and Rob Cantor in Dead by Daylight, I would play that at least once a week. I would say we could totally have a podcast, but we would have to actually focus on something.
I don't think that would be so much of a problem. Like, I'm not trying to sit here and, like, you know, steamroll all the audio.
Yeah.
But it's also, you know, we have talked about doing a podcast before.
Yeah.
It'd be so much easier because we have, like, an idea of what we're going to do instead of normally do,
Which is just
riff for 2 hours.
yeah. That's very true. We can focus one.
That's true.
Go. Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
Crap.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, I was watching on YouTube the other day, and there's this I hate the way YouTube, like, I clicked on one video from a creator and watched a little bit of it and was like, oh, I don't like their content. And then it keeps recommending me their content.
Yeah.
It's like, check out this new painting technique.
No,
And I was like, that's not a new painting technique. It was like, it's like dry brushing, except for that you wet the paintbrush. And I was like, that's called painting, dipshit. I'm not impressed by your technique. It was, okay, see if you can keep up with this groundbreaking shit right here. Okay. Get you a dry brush.
Uh-huh.
You wet the dry brush.
Uh-huh. You dry the brush off?
Yeah, well, you don't want it too wet, but damp brush.
Okay.
A little bit of wet paint on there. And then you can do this, and you can blend the paint together. Yeah, they already have that technique. It's called stippling. It's like that. You didn't invent anything new. You wet your brush, you dry the brush, you wet the brush, you dust the wets. Yeah. He has no pink on his nose. Who has no pink on?
They're talking about...
Talking about Void and
Mm-hmm.
Icklehoff, what's the other cat's name? Void and I've forgotten the other one's name. Oh god, excuse me. Ghost, thank you. Yeah, like that band. In it.
What, Void?
Ghost. That's her other cat is good.
You were dense.
I don't know anything about that band, honestly, other than that their music does not match their aesthetic. They're like Gwar.
Sure. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Or Kiss, for that matter, honestly. I had always seen pictures of Kiss and never heard them, and then I heard them and was like, wow, this is not what I thought they would sound like. I thought they would sound more like Pantera. Voxel Forge. My technique is called slot brush, where you hit the brush against the model. Nice! I'm going to try that sometime, Voxel Forge. I'm going to have to... I wish I could have multiple quotes up at the top, because that's quotable, too. But Trevor says El Bogus, unironically, is still the best thing I've heard. Alright, Headlock by Imogen Heap. You got it.
I just feel like MD should send us her playlist on Spotify.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
we'll just play that.
yeah. There we go. Have some Crayola markers and scribble and call it good enough. You know, avant-garde.
So Icklehoff and I have the same technique.
Yeah.
Mine's just the dip method. I don't pour it on the model. I put the model in the paint.
You don't have Spotify. Okay. That's fine. Plus, I wouldn't get the channel point redeems if she just did and sent us. It's costly to paint a 40K army like that. One of those, like you see the paint pour videos where they just put the, like they got the paper down and they just pour the paint on over the top. You do the same thing with the model.
Yeah.
I saw there's a lot of people out there. You probably know who Duncan Rhodes is. Does a lot of miniature painting tutorials and stuff. He used to work for Games Workshop and now has his own line of paints called Too Thin Coats because he was notorious for saying too thin coats.
Okay.
Somebody did a video that was his audio for painting an ultramarine, but then this guy was applying literally the thickest coat of paint I've ever seen in my life. But it kept saying don't forget too thin coats. And when he was done, it was literally like a blob on the base. It was just, but it kept doing the don't forget too thin coats. Oh my god.
That's very good.
Yeah, Too Thin Coats by Duncan Rhodes, yeah. Actually, Ask Frog, my special technique is super glue and sprinkle glitter. That's a valid technique. You can make it work. I saw something cool. Herpes. Glitter, the herpes of the arts and craft world.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Yeah, you are not wrong, bud. I saw an interesting technique somebody did the other day, and I want to try it on this, but I'd have to like paint it in the colors I want it first. Because it's supposed to be kind of a big old beetle.
Yeah.
And I had wanted to do like a not on camera all the way. I'd wanted to do like an iridescent scheme over it.
Sure.
Walter's Workshop is doing one that's like a white iridescent. I was thinking more of like dark colors, like a scarab beetle.
Mm-hmm.
But what somebody did was they took a thing of water and they essentially did their own hydro dip. But
Okay.
it was like a bucket of water, and then they put a drop of super glue on the top.
Okay.
No. Clear nail polish. There we go. Clear nail polish.
Okay.
Drop a clear nail polish on the top, and it spreads out over the surface of the water. And then they literally like pushed the thing they were dunking into it and did like a hydro dip. And when it came back out, the nail polish had solidified on the surface of the. It was like, oh, that'd probably be an easy way. Like, I wouldn't try it on this. I'd try it on something else first.
Sure.
But I was like, oh, like paint it, black and brown the way I'd wanted it to be, and then do
And then hydro dip it. Yeah.
hydro the dip. So then,
Yeah.
looking at the angle, you might get that effect on it. So, did someone say, "Oh, Icklehoof's throwing glitter bombs"? Oh God!
I'm not
Throw the
cleaning
glitter
up
up
the
in the
lab
air,
today.
rains down all over the lab. We gotta get the damn Roomba fixed.
I did it after the coffee fiasco. I am
Yeah,
not
that's
doing
very
it after
true.
glitter night.
All right. So I'm gonna I'll see if we've got any spare shark brains and we'll put that in the Roomba. That's about the only way this is gonna work, because there's gonna be glitter every damn where. Nails creature in the butt, and creature launches and attaches themselves to the. So we gotta get creature off the ceiling.
I'm not doing that. The last time I scraped him off the ceiling, there was a problem.
Oh. Noob question, Icklehoof. How do you do italics in Twitch? Try /ME, whatever the message is. Well, we've been going for 2 hours, 21 minutes. That 2.5 hour mark. Call it a night.
About to say the rats are getting throwing bombs,
And throwing glitter
MD
bombs. and-
sitting on your desk, Icklehoof's knocking down the tree. I'm not cleaning tonight. You don't pay me enough.
Starting. I knew that, just testing your knowledge and whatnot. Yeah.
No, I don't get paid. That's the point.
Prisoners with jobs.
Yeah. I'm my talents are outsourced.
Yes. The slaves have gotten loose. Hey, I don't like that word. Loose?
Loose, yeah.
No, why would not? Oh, the other word. Sorry. The prisoners with jobs. I hated Thor Ragnarok the first time I saw it, and then I watched it a couple more times. And I was like, "Fuck, this actually
It's
is
pretty
really
good.
good."
Nick will hope we don't arbitrarily ban people. That's my job. I will time you out for 6,000 seconds like I did for Grim.
No, it was a Dark Angel 40K. That's what it was.
No, I did Grim.
Oh yeah, that's right. You did Grim too. Hugs Frog. Oh, AMD, thank you. Huh?
Like 10 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, it's a 10-minute ban. For banned. Well, it has it down in seconds for some reason. Yeah. Yeah, it's real weird.
Comment.
Yeah. Wow, I'll go to my own Twitch. Hookers. Blackjack. You know what? Forget the Twitch. Oh, fucking bastard. Yeah, I'm not sure what causes it. I mean, I don't know if it's our internet connection or if it's the, oh god. If it's the internet connection or what it is. Or whether it's the PC.
You got water in the line again.
Yeah, possibly. Now, we'd be disconnected by now. We'd have disconnected like 5 times. God, those were miserable times. I honestly think my stream would be...
I don't think MD knows that it's me talking.
Deals a $20 out of his pocket. Hey, other guy that's talking, here's a 20. MD... Wait, it's Waste Control that's talking. That's the other guy that's talking. And if you were to steal $20 out of my wallet and give it to Waste Control, you'd literally be...
6 inches.
Yeah, not even. We're like thigh to thigh here. Cheek to cheek and hole to hole.
There it is.
There it is. We did it! We did it! We got to the hole to hole reference. We can now end the stream. Roll credits. Curls up on the mad scientist's head and gets comfy. Ugh. Wait, why is he controlling wastes?
Wrong waist. I mean, I guess I
Yeah.
can control those too.
Yeah.
It's my superpower. I can
'Cause it's-
expand and contract it at will.
He's controlling waste because he's a hypnotist.
No, don't, no, you don't get props for that.
Oh, that was a dad joke.
What does that look for? Go sit back down on the couch.
Yeah, we don't allow people to eat on the couch or drink on the couch. It was beautiful down to the last atomic part. He's a local one.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I need to ask my brother that next time I guess I'm going to see him tomorrow. When he went the first time he went on vacation to Japan with his wife and daughter, he came back and apologized to me because he was in Tokyo and never once listened to Tokyo Flash by Blondie. I was like, I'm so disappointed in you. So now I need to go. I was like, you didn't listen to Tokyo Flash. You didn't listen to Welcome to Japan by Lady Baby. Any of that. I'm so disappointed. I got to see if I can continue my disappointment in my own brother by... I'll ask
He
him
needs
tomorrow.
to listen to 80s city pop.
Yeah.
That whole genre.
Not enough room for some.
I think they're on top of both of our
So
heads.
creature is on your head, and MD that's me is on mine. Oh, you son of a biscuit! I like raiding into somebody's chat when or their stream when MD's here. Just, get raided on, you biscuit. Like, yeah. Splats on the paint and steps in glitter. Now creature's a sticky, glittery mess. Take a bath.
We were all in college once.
Oh, hi, Scott Roscoe. Hi, my Canadian
That's
friend.
my job.
Yeah. Don't tint me with the 80s pop music. Yalla. Washing my pits. Washing my pits. Everything is so lagged out. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's when I've got too much stuff running on the PC or whether it's something to do with the connection. Snowed all day there.
And you are in the Great White North.
I mean,
No, it's where the cocaine lives.
yes. Where the cocaine flows like wine.
Wine flows like.
Piss.
Yep,
there
piss,
we go.
there it is.
Wine flows like piss. Welcome to Canada. I was back up on frogs, had to get away from the glitter. Best rating moment ever. I didn't even say anything. Streamer as well. Icklehoof, get out and bans me. You didn't even know the streamer? Jesus. That is definitely it. Your reputation precedes you.
Fragable's just hitting us all with Janet
Yeah,
Jackson.
so straight up now. Tell me, do you really want to love me forever? All right. Oh, you're wearing your brother's fair flippers that he never wears?
Wait, no. That's Paul Abdul, not
No,
Janet
yeah,
Jackson.
yeah.
Ugh.
Abdul. Ooh, baby.
Are you?
You looking at my Janet? Oh, Luther, I wasn't looking at your Janet.
Yeah, no one wants to see your Janet. Thank you.
Hit him with the crazy eye. You want to see? You don't look at his Janet. He hits you with them crazy eyes. It is Paula. Yeah. Well, to be fair, they were both kind of big around the same time, though.
What now? Spaced out. Sorry.
Janet and Paula Abdul were kind
Yes.
of famous right around the exact same
Yes.
time. It'd be easy to confuse the two, much like how I'm constantly confusing Bill Pullman and Wesley Snipes.
What the I never knew which one played and which one was
Yeah.
in Twister.
Yeah,
And-
which one was in Twister again?
I loved Bowman and Blade, especially the third one.
Yeah. Where he's like there's always some motherfucker trying to ice skate uphill. You can see the similarities. Thank you. This guy gets it.
Cool. And I'll never unsee Bill Pullman as Blade.
That's right.
Great. Cool.
See if we can't use a deep fake and edit that.
I probably wouldn't be that hard.
Nah. I like the fact that Wesley Snipes is a one of the vampire council in What We Do in the Shadows.
Uh-huh. What you doing here? I'm
And he wasn't, and it wasn't like it was, it's, it's Blade or anything like that. It was literally, it's Wesley Snipes.
Mm-hmm.
Wesley Snipes and Danny Trejo. Who picked
Wait,
this?
now I think I'm confusing Bill Pullman and Bill Paxton.
Yeah, I think you are too. Bill Paxton and Blade. Yeah, Bill Paxton was in Twister.
No, I'm not. Okay, so that was the guy that I did see in my head. Oh, he was the dad in Casper.
Yeah,
That's
he was
it.
also the president in Independence
Day. Yeah. He was also the main character in Spaceballs.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. He was.
Yeah, he was.
Damn, so now we're all confused. Jesus.
Listen, it's late.
Bill Pullman Marathon. Here we go. On stream.
Right now.
Creature, do you want some fun dip? Oof. Yeah, 11 o'clock at night. Have some fun dip.
I don't think there's any time appropriate for this.
But it's the perfect summertime treat.
Is it?
No, that's ice cream. We all know it's ice. I don't know why I tried to lie to you.
Are we in a hole right now?
Yeah, we're just gonna leave it. Stream's almost finished. Lone Star, yeah. I'm not a big fan of the Mel Gibson movies.
You're okay. It's fine to be wrong.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be bad people in the world so that we know who the good people are. Oh, my son was watching Polar Express again the other day, and my brother was over here, and I did the thing with the Tokyo Drift over the top. I got it
The
timed.
train scene?
Yeah, I got it timed just right.
Very
He
good.
fucking died. I didn't tell him anything either. I was like, oh shit, here it comes. I gotta get it set. That needs to be a fucking clip too. That needs to be a channel point redeem.
Tokyo Drift song, or
The-
just the video with the
Tokyo Drift with the train from Polar
Polar
Express. You love Mel Brooks and Braveheart.
cool. Now I'll never not be able to see the movie when I listen to this song.
Yeah. Now you could either see Polar Express with a train drifting across the ice, or fucking little Bow Wow in Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. Those are your options. So
I don't want either of them.
yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely getting late.
You need to go ahead and end stream there,
I
brother.
zoned out. Yeah, let's dance. Dance party. Throw a little of this in there. Okay, yeah, it's totally
Yeah, it's time. It's time.
All right. There's. Yeah, thank you for the birthday redeem there. I'm waiting on Final Fantasy.
No.
Oh, Fast and Furious 18, Paul Walker's Revenge. Oh, come on, dude. Frog SOS creatures have gone crazy with Fun Dip.
Yeah, I wonder how
That's
that
all right.
happens.
That's all right. We're about to dump creature on somebody else's doorstep and run like a bag of flaming poo. The Gravion, Sparks Minis, good enough. Oh, not very many people streaming tonight. Then again, I don't stream on Mondays, so I don't know what a lot of people's routines are. Creature starts running around the lab and is running in between people's legs. And go, man. Those aren't words. There's a voice control. Waste control. Good lord.
Wow.
I think everybody needs to lay off the fun dip at this point in time. Good grief. You guys are all over the place. All right, stream manager. There we go. All right, well, unless somebody wants to do the Guide the Raid channel point redemption. $181. Oh, it's actually synced up. Good stuff. 281 followers. 19 followers away from 300. Creature, what sort of creature are you? Oh, hi, Riot Sister. We're getting ready to raid out of here. No, there is no more 5 minutes.
Had your 5 minutes 5 minutes ago.
That's right. Post Riot Sister in the eye. Jesus Christ.
Under the week of
Why?
Christmas. Jeez.
Christmas Eve. Come on. Come on.
Oh, there you go.
All right, Riot Sister has redeemed the Guide the Raid of this mechanic game. That's where we're going. All right. Boop. Shameless plug. Be sure to watch my stuff when I'm on. Oh yeah, we'll throw it out there one more time because shameless plugs are shameless. So, if we can find them. There's all kinds of people lurking. There we go. I'll share it one more time. Maybe maybe a mix of Cat Crow and Red Panda. Yes, go give Infraggable a brand new mini painter. Okay, and Infraggable is a brand new video game streamer. So let's everybody give both of them follows. So we're gonna rate on in there. Okay, sure.
Pull the ripcord.
So, this mechanic games, we're going to rate on into them. Thanks to Riot Sister for the recommendation. Thank you to Walter's Workshop for the raid. Thank you to the Infraggable for the raid. Thank you for the sub. Thank you for the follows, everybody out there. Thank you for the lurks. And yeah, I think that's just about everything. We will be back. I'm not going to stream on Tuesday because that would be...
That's tomorrow.
Tomorrow. That'd be Christmas Eve. And I can stream on Christmas Day. Maybe stream on Boxing Day. Might stream on Boxing Day. We'll see. That's the 26th for the Americans. It's the day after Christmas. All of you have a happy holidays, a Merry Christmas, a festive Kwanzaa, a happy Hanukkah, or whatever else you celebrate or don't celebrate. But we're going to raid on into this mechanic games. And let's all go on over there and give him some love and so forth and so on. And I will catch you lab rats next time.
Bye.